Welcome back, friends. Hope you all enjoyed a sumptuous lunch. Before starting the next technical session, I have an announcement to make. This month, 19th and 20th of July, this month, we have organized 2 days union budget analysis at Hotel RG Royal Convention Center, Mahalakshmi Layout. So the registration is open. You can register for both the days or even for a single day. The first day is indirect tax, the second day is direct tax we are covering. So indirect tax budget issues may not be much. So we cover other issues including audit and annual returns too. So request you all to register that and make use of that union budget analysis and other issues discussed in that. Moving on to today's next technical session is GST applicability on charitable institutions. To enlighten us, to share knowledge in that, we have invited an expert on indirect tax. He is none other than CA Kalyan Kumar. May I request our member Mark D'Souza sir to escort him on to dais and also welcome him to the floor, okay? Thank you, Mark D'Souza. Friends, it is my pleasure to introduce Kalyan Kumar to this August gathering. He is our fellow member of our institute and currently is an director in Deloitte Hastings and Sons LLP Bangalore. He has more than 13 years of experience in Big Fours in indirect taxes, and he attended and spoke in several seminars and conferences across India. He is also a company secretary in qualification. With this brief intro, I present C. Kalyan Kumar before you. Please join me to welcome him once again.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I understand this is a tough session to concentrate immediately after the lunch, but I will try to keep it as simple as possible and as limited as possible. So the topic given to me, before that I thank the Managing Committee of Bangalore branch of ICI for inviting and also giving me this opportunity. The topic given to me is the applicability of GST on charitable trust. The general understanding or the common understanding of everyone is that, the moment we hear about charitable trust, the upfront understanding or the thought process that we get is nothing is taxable. That's a general phenomenon, a general understanding everyone has. But the goods and service tax has a different thought process. Let's try to see what exactly it's trying to reflect with respect to the charitable institutions. So these are the points of discussion that I am going to cover today. Is there a specific registration requirements under the goods and service tax for charitable trust? What are the taxable activities in case there is a registration requirement? What are the exemptions that have been prescribed under the Act through the notifications? What are the general myths that exist, if at all they exist? And what is that clarification that we have from the law? And a brief touch upon the latest advanced rulings covering these charitable institutions. Coming on to the registration, as I said, the general understanding is that it is not taxable, not liable to be registered, all those things. But the law has something else. So it requires every person, every supplier of goods and services needs to get registered if the threshold crosses 20 lakhs in a financial year. And there's an exception for certain northeastern states. Now, supplier has been defined as any person who carries the business activities of supply of goods and services. Person has been defined to include a trust, a society registration, registered under the Society Registration Act. So given that the specific inclusion of trust in the definition of a person, and which is going to cover as a supplier, by default every trust is covered as a person liable to get registered if he is going to carry out some activities which are taxable under the goods and service tax. Now what is the threshold? The threshold is if the aggregate annual turnover exceeds 20 lakhs in a financial year, you are liable to get registered. So you have, if you take an example, you have a trust in Karnataka, you have a trust in Tamil Nadu. If the turnover of these two trusts exceeds 20 lakhs in a year, irrespective of the specific turnover in each state, both the trusts will have to get registered. Now what if the charitable trusts are exclusively into some exempt transaction? Is that something that is required to get registered? The answer is no. If any charitable trust which is into specifically providing any exempted activities, then such trust is not required to get registered. But the moment they provide any taxable supplies, take an example, say 19 lakhs 50,000 of exempt supplies and 50,000 of taxable supplies, say for example scrap. The moment you make a taxable supply, the exempt supply is included as part of your aggregate turnover along with the taxable turnover to consider the threshold for getting registered. Right? So you need to be careful when any trust is dealing with the supplies of goods and services. Even if they have exempt supplies, they need to consider the threshold, the turnover per threshold, and if any percentage of taxable supplies are there, that will be added to the aggregate turnover to get registered. So it is understood that charitable trusts are liable to get registered the moment they have any taxable supplies and crossing the threshold. Now, is that the end? There are exemptions that have been prescribed.
Give some example of that.
Sorry?
Services.
Yes, sir. We're going to cover in this. So once we cover the entire slides, probably we'll get a complete understanding of it. So there is certain exemption that has been prescribed. So under the law, the thumb rule is any activity that is carried out by the trust, as defined under the person, is liable to get registered and pay taxes. However, we need to get into see the notification 12/2017, which prescribes a host of exemptions from paying GST. What are those activities which are covered as part of the exemption notification? The first and foremost is a charitable trust which is registered under section 12A of Income Tax Act and carrying out charitable activities. Those activities are not liable for GST. What are those charitable activities? It's given in the slides. You can go to that slide specifically. So these are the host of activities which is specifically defined as charitable activities under the goods and services tax. If there is any trust which is into providing care or counseling of terminally ill persons, persons affected with HIV, persons addicted to a dependence on substance, all these public awareness to preventive health, family planning, HIV infection, advancement of religion, spirituality or yoga, all these are specifically excluded. If any trust exclusively dealing with this, there is no liability to pay. And if any trust is into educational programs and limited to these activities specified, right? If you are giving any skill development or education with respect to abandoned, orphaned or homeless children, prisoners, persons of above 65 years age, all these will get covered as an exemption. Anything other than this will not be considered as charitable activities for the purpose of goods and services tax. The moment you are not getting covered under this charitable activity definition, then you will be part of the non-charitable activities where there is no exemption that has been prescribed under the Act. Right? Right. However, there are certain exceptions. Even if you carry out certain activities, which prima facie could be charitable in nature. However, there are exceptions which, if you carry out those activities, may not technically get covered as charitable activities. For example, if a trust having a property which is going to get let out, and it is earning a rental income, those activities are not part of the charitable activities. Those would be subjected to the GST. However, there is a threshold that has been prescribed. Sorry, I am not getting this arrow, otherwise I will. So do you have a pointer somewhere? It's okay. If you see here, the renting of a room which is up to 1,000 rupees is exempted, or any renting of premises, community halls, Kalyan Mandapams, if the charges that are levied are about 10,000 rupees per day, it is not exempted, and renting of shops, spaces, of business which is more than 10,000 rupees per month, these are all not accepted. Anything below this threshold, even if they are not charitable in nature, will be exempted. The moment they cross this threshold, they will be taxable under goods and services tax. Right? And one of the conditions that has been prescribed is these have to be for specific religious purpose, and this should be within the precincts thereof. In the sense, say for example, you take a temple, which has a Kalyan Mandapam attached to this, or a guest house attached to this, or some rooms that are attached, which they would generally let out to public. That would be considered as within the precincts of the temple. Anything which is beyond the coverage of the temple, say at a distance or in a different city, that would not get covered under the precincts thereof, and hence the exemption will not be applicable, even if it is below this threshold that has been prescribed. So the condition is these accommodation has to be for the religious places and within the precincts of these religious places, and it should be within the threshold limit. The moment they cross the threshold limit, they will be subjected to GST. Another exemption that is not covered under the charitable activity is any person conducting religious ceremonies, which also covers the charitable. So need not be limited to the charitable trust. Any person who is conducting religious ceremony, that would be covered as part of the exemption. So any person conducting religious ceremony, would be covered as part of the exemption. That will be, say for example, any temple carrying out Ganesh festival programs or Navaratri programs or any other religious festival that is being conducted. They carry out certain activities for the general public. All those will be covered as part of the exemption. There won't be any taxability around that. However, if say for example, we'll take again the Ganesh festival, if someone were to sponsor the event and where there is a specific mention of his name or the entity which is sponsoring that, that would not get covered under this exemption. So that will become taxable. Right? However, if I am just donating it for the Ganesh festival, say for example, this is my amount to the festival expenses without any reference to my name getting covered anywhere, that will be part of the exemptions covered and not liable to subsidy. So accordingly, we need to evaluate at a transaction level whether these would be specifically getting covered under the exemptions prescribed or not. The moment it is not getting specifically covered under the exemptions prescribed, it would become taxable. Also, any person who is into training or coaching recreational activities relating to art or culture or sports, this is also being specifically exempted. there won't be any taxable, say any subscription that you would get for this, any fees that is being collected, any revenue that you would earn for all these things will not be subjected to any GST. Also, the entities which are into specifically providing educational services, subject to the limitation that has been covered here. So, for example, a charitable institution doing a UC college or a degree college is not specifically covered under the scope of exemption. It would be taxable. What is covered is the transportation facility given to the staff, the lecturers, the students, the catering services, security, housekeeping services. Anyone providing to the education institution will also be exempted, and even the services being provided by the education institution will be covered. Services, the admission fee that you generally pay, all those things are specifically covered under that. Anything not getting covered will become taxable. Now a question would arise, the charitable institution came to both exempt as well as taxable. What happens to the procurements? Do I have to reverse the credit? Because all the procurements, there is no specific exemption for supplies made to the charitable institution except for the educational services. Everything is taxable in nature. Would that become a reversible transaction? The answer would be yes, because the charitable institution would be providing both exempt as well as taxable. In such case, the proportional credit will have to be reversed. And all the compliances that are applicable to a normal registered person will equally be applicable to a charitable institution with respect to the raising of invoices, filing of returns, filing of annual returns, all those things. And if the threshold crosses the 2 crores, then you will have to get the audited also. There are a few more activities that are covered under the exemption. As I said, every activity that any charitable institution carries out will have to be looked into substance of the transaction to see whether these are specifically getting covered, because there are quite a few advanced rulings that have been there with respect to the questions being raised to the advanced ruling authority, asking them, is my activity specifically getting covered under the exemption or not. So it again depends on what is your nature of operations, whether it is a charitable organization, whether the activities get covered in charitable activities or any of the exemptions that are prescribed. So it boils down to the substance. If you are running any libraries, the public, for general public, all the services that are being rendered with respect to the public's libraries will be exempt. However, if you are running a private library, there is no exemption that is being prescribed. So any subscription fee that you would charge for that will be liable in case of a private library, but a public library all will be exempted. Healthcare services. Healthcare services have been defined, it's there in the slides, provided by a clinical establishment. So long as these are healthcare services and provided by clinical establishments, an exemption has been prescribed. Clinical establishment also has been defined extensively. We need to look at our specific transactions to say whether we qualify as a clinical establishment first, and then whether we are providing health services or not, then we can get this exemption under the notification. It specifically doesn't cover the hair transplantation, the cosmetic or plastic surgery. All these are not specifically defined as healthcare services and are specifically excluded. However, if they are undertaken to restore or to reconstruct anatomy or functions of a body affected due to congenital defects, all those basic way to rectify anything, that is covered. Otherwise, you will not get that exemption. Yes, sir.
I think that healthcare services are specific category itself. I don't think it will come under a charitable trust.
Right. So that is applicable to any person, which also includes charitable. So given that today's discussion is on charitable, so what all activities can get under a charitable activity? This is covered to or applicable to other persons also, including charitable activities. And that's why I have covered this here. Right? So all these, as I said, the educational is applicable to any person. It need not be limited to charitable trust. Similarly, the religious ceremony, the second one, is also applicable to every person, and hence it covers the charitable trust. The third is the healthcare services, and hence I cover this. Yes.
IVF centers.
Yeah, I don't think it is covered specifically. Yeah. Anything which is not specifically covered under this. So the last residuary, you are providing any other services, it would become taxable. Any questions on this?
Slide before this, can you go to that one?
First one is charitable activities as defined, exempt, then there is an exception.
Yeah.
And then charge some amount from, can you elaborate a little bit on that one?
Right. So, as I said, if you are participating in a charitable institution activity where there is a specific mention that you are going to donate some money, however, you will get a specific marketing opportunity there. All those things will not get covered as a charitable activity, which will be a separate activity and hence would become taxable in nature.
So if there is a yoga program that is being done and I take sponsorship from someone, then it will be GST based.
It would be applicable. If you are giving generally to all the persons, then it will be exempted. However, you are collecting a specific fees for it, then it would be taxable.
So in first case, charge some amount from participant in the name of accommodation or participation.
Yeah.
So promotion of yoga is exempt. But if somebody is coming to take part in a yoga program and we
If some charges to enroll that for that course, it would be taxable. Like you do it free of cost to the general public, inviting everyone to conduct, and you incur expenses and all, that would not be taxable. However, the moment you enroll and pay the subscription charges, it becomes taxable.
But yoga is also classified as charitable under GST, right?
Right.
Earlier it was there under Section 215 Income Tax Act
Right.
by 15 amendment. Subsequently, I think in September that year, the amendment in GST also came making yoga exempt.
Right.
So even if I am charging a fee for yoga, it should still be exempt under GST.
It is covered. If you see the charitable definition,
Including the accommodation.
advancement of religion, spirituality or yoga, it is covered. But the way it is covered is that you are conducting any yoga classes for general public, it is exempted. But you have a specific private institution where you charge people to conduct yoga activities like what is it called? Or yoga classes, I would say, so general yoga classes, not by the charitable trust, then it would be taxable.
So you are saying accommodation is chargeable, right?
Right, this is chargeable.
That was the earlier flyer, GST flyer, which said that this is chargeable. Subsequently, I think the department amended that.
Provided bill is consolidated. Bill is consolidated.
Let me check that.
Yeah. Just circular in the month of September or just last
Okay.
from department.
Yeah, so long as it is getting covered under the yoga or spiritual, it should be exempted from GST.
With regard to that rent received as a services, previous predecessor told that up to 20% of the gross receipt will be exempt. And what will be the applicability with regard to the GST?
20% up to 20% of the receipt exempt from the income tax point of view.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is no such
There is no such provision under the GST.
also independent tax.
Right. So these are the exemption notification. With this is all for reference. There are multiple serial numbers, under the notification, serial number 1, 13, 74, 80, 66 and 50. So these are the activities which are specifically applicable for the charitable trust. All these, if you are getting covered under this, would be exempted from GST. These are the definitions, as I said. What is the religious place? What are the precincts that has been defined? Healthcare services, clinical establishments. Now you need to ensure that we get covered under this to claim these definitions.
What about
Any questions?
educational institution?
Sorry, sir?
Is a trust running a hostel
Right.
of its own. What about the taxability and the GST?
So hostel is not covered. There is a specific
On
advance.
the document in that it says if it is run by own also it is taxable.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Now, in case of charitable trust, educational institution, running hostel for student, it is run by its own only, not given on any rental basis or on lease basis. In spite of that, some court recently said it is taxable.
Yes, sir. There is an advanced ruling which I have captured.
Yeah.
They have specifically mentioned, if I have to go to the specific advanced ruling.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is advance ruling which said that it is taxable. I don't think they are covered under this.
Why so many confusions? How to take the decision?
It's as I said, when an exemption is being given under the Act, you need to strictly ensure that you get covered under the exemption. The moment something is not covered, then it becomes automatically taxable. Prima facie it is taxable. The exception is given only for the activities covered as part of the exemption. Only if you're getting covered under that, you get an exemption, otherwise it becomes taxable.
Advance ruling also is binding, no?
Yes, it is binding on the applicant.
It is equivalent to law only.
Yeah, till the facts are changed, yes.
Then what about this, all these years, from last year to this year? Now we are going to file the returns. How to take the liability?
Any service to the students is exempted. That's why the exemption is.
Sorry?
Any service to the students by the institution is exempted.
It's exempted up to secondary higher education is exempted. Anything beyond it is...
Hostel also is a service or a cook is a service.
No, the hostel accommodation is not specifically covered as part of the education.
No, any service to students, that's the way to student. Any service to non-students is exempted. So a hostel...
No, not every service is exempted. It is only the educational services that are exempted. Hostel services are not specifically covered.
Now we have not paid any taxes for that.
Whether transport services to the school is exempted or not, sir? Transport services.
No, sir. There is no... In a sense, there is a coverage from educational transportation of students, faculty and staff. If you are providing these services to the education institution, yes, there is an exemption.
So not taxable.
Not taxable. Provided to or provided
But the
by.
hostel services taxable. When interpretation is there depending upon the convenience of the government.
Sir, give more clarity on this advance.
Hostel service is not a residential accommodation.
Sorry?
Hostel service is not a residential accommodation provided.
So residential, it is definitely not.
Providing hostel.
Sorry?
School is providing hostel to the students. Is it not?
Agree, there is an argument to that it is for residential purpose.
Even otherwise it come under lodging service less than 1,000 rupees. Hostel doesn't charge more than 30,000. It will come under there also to be exempted. Or they can argue under residential. Also it can be claimed as an exemption.
Tax in
Sorry, can you repeat? I am ready.
See, the normal lodging service is 1,000 rupees per day. Per day is exempted. Most of the hostel charge less than 30,000 rupees. Under that also.
Ideally, yes. Technically, I would argue that it would be, but given the advance ruling that is specifically said it is not, then we'll have to wait till we have a clear condition on that.
But there is a circular and corrigendum for that. 1,000 rupees, he can take an exemption.
1,000 rupees, sorry?
Capped exemption, it is there in the notification from circular itself. Why we have to rely upon advance ruling?
No, so the notification of 1,000 rupees, it is for renting of a room, but it is not specifically talking about any hostel accommodation that is being given. While, as I said, there could be an argument to say, and that's where the application was filed before the advance ruling, and they said, it is not.
There's an advance ruling also, this can be claimed. I know that quoting you. There's an advance ruling also says that it is less than 1,000, also can be claimed.
That is why they...
I was referring to the recent advance ruling which I came across, which said that it is not.
Last week only it is applied.
Yeah, the recent one, it says that it is taxable.
There we got how to go about it. Huge liability will arise now. How to go about it? Kindly please.
So, sir, how to go about it in the sense, the moment you are not rendering it, collecting charges from the students, it would be taxable service. So, there is no specific exemption as such, so you will have to pay for that.
There is a specific notification that hostel run by educational institution is exempt. Now advance ruling is come now. Advance ruling is some, that's what they say. We have not seen that advance ruling, but there is a specific notification.
Sir, all the notifications are covered here. So to my mind,
on hostel run by educational institution, there is a clarification or a notification saying that it is hostels run by education.
By educational institution, yes.
Yes, exempt.
But hostels run by educational institution, there is a possibility of. But if you are just running a hostel,
no, that is not exempt.
That is not exempt.
That is not exempt. Hostel run by
serial number 54 before serial number before power supply.
Hospital run by educational institution still has exemption.
Right.
That's what this advance ruling says, it is
But
taxable.
what it says is it is not by educational but others.
No, others is always, earlier also taxable.
Educational
Now,
institutions,
advance
there is an exemption. serial
Run by
number
own
before
also, it
This
is taxable.
advance ruling, is it of educational institution or it is run by others? Can you
I
just
will have to check that, but
Now,
it said that it is taxable, but it should be in a different situation.
Run by own, not by leased out. Leased out is taxable. What you say?
Subleasing into student and hospital.
If you are education, not an education institution,
Education institution, and the trust, taking certain places on rent and then letting it out to students and hospitals. That is
then possible you could take that.
so taxable.
No, you are saying you are getting a sublease from a different person.
No, the institution is taking it on lease and subleasing it to students.
Right.
In that case, will it be chargeable?
Subleasing it, then it would not be taxable. Because you are not providing exclusive for your students. It could be for anyone.
Students specifically and taking it as hostel charge.
No, you are subleasing it to students or subleasing it to someone who would ultimately give it to students.
Subleasing it to students.
Renting it to
Then it is renting it out to students. Right?
renting only.
So sublease typically is that you are giving someone who could again have a rental accommodation. But if you are actually giving it to the students, that should be applicable.
Kindly, in advance ruling, kindly read this 2 lines.
Sir, I don't think I have covered that advanced link.
Run by its own, not given on lease basis to somebody. The institution itself running on its own, the hostel, even then it is taxable.
No, I have not covered in this at this point. I have limited only to 5 case law, 5 advanced links. But I will come back to you, sir. I will check and I will probably write back to you.
Trust is there, and then we are providing food on subsidized rate.
You are providing?
Food
No.
in subsidized rate. Then whatever we are charging, will it going to be taxable?
So there is catering services including any midday meals sponsored by the government is covered.
What is asking is, it's not covered by sponsored by the government. Instead of 100 rupees, I'll charge 80 rupees to the public and sell food.
Then it is taxable.
Taxable.
Yeah, it is taxable.
But trust is exempt.
So subject to the activities is exempt, not all activities. As I said in the beginning, there is a certain portion of the activities which are covered specifically under the GST, which are held to be exempt. Any activity which is not getting covered under it becomes taxable. You supply goods, you supply other taxable services, training services, anything which is not getting covered as part of the charitable activities, it becomes taxable. Then again, even the exempt turnover will be considered for your threshold to consider whether you are crossing the 20 lakhs to get registered. So you have 1 rupee taxable supply and 19 lakhs of 99,000 whatever exempt, it becomes eligible for registration. So these are all for your references captured. The slides have been sent by email to you, the revised slides. What is given is slightly an older version, but the revised updated one has been sent to you by email. Right. Some of them we have covered. As I said, the moment you cross the threshold, you need to get registered. But there are certain activities, even if you carry out without crossing the threshold limit, you will have to get registered. If you are making an interstate supply of goods or services, it is not covered under the threshold limit for registration, you will have to get registered. If you have liability to pay under reverse charge, say if you are getting an import of services, so long as it is charitable in nature, it will be exempted. If it is not, then it will be taxable. For example, OIDR services. If you are getting any OIDR services, that will become part of the taxable services, or any advocate fees that you have to pay, anything under the reverse charge, you will become liable to get registered. Any occasional transaction that you carry out, for example, scrap that you would have, that will become taxable. And anything that you are providing to an e-commerce operator, there is a TCS requirement that the e-commerce operator will have to make. So accordingly, you will have to get registered as per the mandatory requirement. The general question that we come across often is that charitable trusts which generally have funds from trustees or the donors, and those amounts are usually invested in a bank to earn interest, FDs or current account or an SB account. The question is, whatever interest that you would earn, is that a supply? Is that a something that you are carrying out as an activity subjected to or getting covered under the GST? Or it could be applicable to any trading person. The additional funds that you are investing, you are earning an interest. Is there a supply? Is there a and given that there is a specific exemption that has been covered with respect to the interest that you are earning, is that getting covered given the situation? There are different views. The large view that exists is that the activity of investing your excess funds into the bank and earning interest is not getting covered as part of your supply, and hence it is not an exempt turnover for you to actually reverse it. Trust may have other exempt turnover, but this is equally applicable to the other trading entities where additional funds are invested to the bank in the bank and earning interest. There are diverse views whether it is a supply which is exempt, which requires the trading entity to reverse the trade, or is it not a supply at all? Or is it merely a transaction of money and hence not subject to, or not a supply at all? So the large view is that it should not be a supply. And in this case also, if you are earning any interest, to my mind also, it should not be part of your threshold for calculating the registration limit. Reversal of credit, as I said, yes, it becomes part of another charitable activities which are covered under the exemption notification will become exempt supplies, and hence if you are carrying out any other taxable supplies, there is a proportionate reversal of credit that is required to be made. How do you make the reversal? You will have to compute based on the turnover. If you cannot identify or any transaction which is specific to taxable or specific to exempted, you will have to accordingly decide to pay or not pay.
Voluntary contributions received is to be included in the turnover.
Sorry, sir.
Voluntary contributions received to the trust, trust, is it to be included to the
turnover? Because it's the money that you receive. There is no activity from your end of it. So what is exempt is the activities from the trust. So the activity of depositing these money that you receive in the bank and earning an interest. So is the activity of depositing the money, is it a supply and a consideration? The interest, is that a consideration? Is a question. The large consensus is that it should not be, because it is not an activity for you to investing money is not an activity which could get covered under the supply and under the GST. That is a large view. There are diverse views.
Voluntary contribution received, is it a part of
voluntary is the money donation, sir. Money.
No, the donation.
No, that would not be any. Unless it is specifically given for you please advertise me. No, I am giving this money to advertise me for the whatever activity that you are carrying out. Then it is. If you are voluntarily donating for anything for the temple, for the religious trust, that would not be taxable.
It is not taxable. It should be whether it should be taken covered for including turnover purpose.
No, that is money received. That is not. It is not.
It should not be included for the turnover purpose.
Regarding this particular matter of monthly contributions, I read a little bit on it, and what the other speakers have mentioned in relation to those websites of the institute, it says that when grants are received, and it's specifically mentioned in those grants what is to be carried out. In those cases, there will be GST because there will be supply.
Yeah, that's
in the cases where donations or grants are given without any conditions, there will be no supply.
Okay. That's what I said. If it is being given for a specific activity, yes, it would be. Otherwise, we are just giving it.
I will give it for building purpose. Construction of building, I will give you.
No, it is for the trust, which will be used for construction activity, which will not be.
It should be taken for the. It should be taken for the turnover purpose.
No, it would not.
If the donor gets back some.
Yeah.
Is it required to show in the returns?
But there is no supply. There is no supply at all. There is no point including that in the return.
In the return.
Yes, CSR donations. CSR donations is in with condition. Is there any liability for them?
CSR donation we are receiving it, right? So what is exempt or what is not taxable is actually that you carry out as a trust. So what you are receiving is, he will have to evaluate. The company is making a CSR activity. Is it as a gift or is it a donation? Is it a sample? Then, as per the section 17, do you have to reverse the credit? Is a question for him. That would be the point for him to convention. Whether it is given a free of cost, then whatever proportional credit that you have paid, should that be reversed? Will that qualify as reversal under section 75? Is a question.
Charitable organizations are liable to pay under reverse charge?
Yeah. So long as it is not a charitable activity. Reverse charge are typically advocacy fees or import of services, so like the OIDR. So long as it is not charitable activity, OIDR services that you receive is liable. Advocacy fees, the lawyer's fees, that will be liable under reverse charge.
And if we are taking some, because from services from plumber or something like that, would that also constitute into this reverse charge? Services from
unregistered person giving services to charitable, your body purchase liability is not there now.
Okay.
The moment the notification comes, we'll have to see how it's going to be applied. As of now, unregistered purchases, there is no liability.
No liability.
But if it happens to be a dealer and if he provides any works contract services that you are referring to, then it would be taxable because there is no exemption to that.
Excuse me. Let us say if the government funded research is there and they give a grant to develop any prototypes, whether receiving grant and giving them a prototype back would amount to supply?
I would ask the same question to you. What is your view on this?
Even I have the same confusion. I have not got the answer.
But so are you getting a grant as a charitable institution?
Yeah, it's a research and trust.
And is that an activity which is exempted under 12A of Income Tax Act? Whatever activity that you are carrying out? Okay. So then, if it is a charitable activity, if it is an entity under 12AA of Income Tax Act, and you are receiving it for that specific activity, then it should be exempt.
But there is no quid pro quo for consideration. That's one stopping.
No, so consideration is only a quantification. You need to see what is the activity. Is that something getting covered under that? If yes, then we should have that exemption.
Giving prototype itself is consideration. Giving them
True.
itself is a consideration.
True. What I am saying is the activity itself is getting covered. Then consideration, it's the next step. It's more of quantification. So if the activity itself is not liable, then there is no question of going in for consideration, is what I am saying. If it is a 12AA charitable trust, if it is used for charitable activities, then you should get for exemption. So qualification is just a number. Is what I mean. If the activity is getting covered, yes, you should take exemption. So I have covered some of the latest advanced rulings on whether an activity of these entities or organizations or charitable institutions are getting covered in any of the notification serial numbers. As I said, there are 6 to 7 exemption notifications which could be applicable for the charitable institution. Some of them are covered. This is more, as I said, it will be more specific to their activity. We cannot apply this exemption notification in general. You will have to, when you make an application before advanced ruling, you have to substantiate why the activity is getting covered under the exemption notification and why you should enjoy this exemption notification. Vocational training courses, in this case, whether it is exempt as an activity or educational courses being rendered by the educational institution. As I said, any services to or from is exempt under section, the serial number 66 of 12/2007. In this case, it's it said that, yes, these are all covered under the exemption notification. As I said, the educational courses or services are not defined as such. It will have to be explained to say that, these are the activities which will get covered under the education services. They said in this case, Literacy Mission Trust of India, they said yes, it is getting covered under the notification, so you can take that exemption. As I said, the healthcare services are clearly exempt by clinical establishment. This is a case where we made an application to understand whether they are eligible as a clinical establishment, whether all the medicines, whatever that you have used during provision of the healthcare services, would that also become exempt? There is a concept of composite supply under the goods and service tax. The primary supply is healthcare services. Any other ancillary services like medicines, consumables in the process of the education, the healthcare services would become part of the composite supply. And in this case, they said yes, all this whatever medicines that are supplied as part of the composite supply would also enjoy exemption. Not only the principal supply of healthcare services, but also the composite supply of the medicines, consumables which are used as part of the health services would also enjoy exemption. In this case, sanitation services, whether this is covered as part of the exemption, this is a liability judgment. In substance, it says that yes, even sanitation services would become part of your charitable activities because of the foundation on which this NGO has been set up also covers these activities, and hence they granted this exemption. These are the additional to judge advance rulings, which are more of a self-explanatory. The key here is, why are they asking exemptions before the advance ruling? Because you may not, if any charitable activity is exclusively into exempt activities, they may not get registered. They may not get to compliance activities. They may not file returns. They may not raise a taxable invoice. They may not comply with any of the regulations. So any of these activities are getting covered under the exemption. Then you could get away from the registration requirements and not comply with any of the rules or provisions of the law. That's all I have. Any specific question? Sorry? So this is, so if I go back to the earlier notification reference. So this is here the midday meal scheme sponsored by the government. Okay, so they wanted to check whether these activities of preparation of food and providing it to the children, whether which is also a midday meal, whether they can consider to be a supply or can they enjoy the exemption. In this case, they said, no, this is not an exemption being provided, this is not a activity being provided by the government and not getting specifically covered under the exemption, and hence will be taxed.
But they are not charging anything to children.
Sorry?
They are not charging anything to the receiver of the service.
True.
So it is free.
True.
Then why taxable? Is the donor to pay tax on that? What they are charging 1100 per child?
No, so there is a concept of distinct entries, employer, employee, children, this NGO institutions, all the members of this. So there is a distinct entities or related persons concept. Even if there is no consideration moving to it, any activity that you are providing it, there is a deemed supply under Schedule 1 and hence taxable. So here, even though there is no consideration that is being charged, and given that there is a related party transaction, no consideration, getting covered under Schedule 1 and hence becomes taxable. And there is no exemption that has been prescribed or getting covered under the notification.
What is the amount you will tax on?
Sir, there are valuation rules. It says that open market value. If you had provided similar food to an outside person, what would be the charge that it would levy? That charge they will consider. So there is a valuation rules that are prescribed, so which prescribe the open market value. You have to arrive at open market value for the food that is being rendered and then charge.
Sir, Indian program is taxed at nil. Midday meal program.
Sorry, right?
Sir, last but one paragraph. And last sentence. Sir. MDM program is taxed nil by notification number this.
Correct, but so long it is a government.
Yeah, so this for this is exempt. For Akshay Patra.
No, for Akshay Patra, no.
No, it is.
This transfer of capital equipment.
Sorry. This is exempt.
Yeah,
right. Only the next part.
Scrap.
Yes, sure. Yes, midday program is exempt. True. That's all.
The charitable institution take the advocate service. So what will happen?
It is liable under reverse charge because there is no forward charge for them. You will have to pay.
So other you have to get registration. For last 2 years they are doing this activity, just for 10,000 rupees certificate will you have to go for registration.
Yes, that is what is prescribed. We have to get registration.
No other way.
Advocate should not charge.
There have been, the responsibility is being cast on the recipients.
Advocate should be requested not to charge. Then there is no reverse tax.
Why it is included in RCM?
Advocate, they don't know how to treat their service to be a noble service, and they believe that they should not get covered in the ambit of the taxability and the GST. And that's the proportion that they had. So the lawyer profession, they felt that they are doing another profession.
We can also represent, no?
Sorry?
CA Institute also can represent, no?
But yeah, that's the argument saying that they are doing another profession and hence should not get covered under the goods and service tax or any taxes, and hence the liability has been touched on the because if you recollect, under the service tax, they were brought under the taxable line. So there was a, the issue went into Supreme Court, it went to that extent. In fact, finally, it got amended. The liability on that transaction has been touched on the recipient.
Basically, goods transport they brought into RCM, there is an understandable because there are unauthorized provision. Okay. But this is the advocate, they can do so much argument and raise the bill by transport.
An NGO which is registered coming under the head of preservation of environment carries out a consultancy contract for providing consultancy in relation to preservation of environment. Will it be considered as exempt from GST?
Prima facie, I would tend to believe it should get covered because if they are into preserving the environmental, whatever you say, consultancy, given their expertise, they would also have the team, which would provide an advice. But is it giving to the own or is it giving to someone else?
Giving to a person who has approached them for consultancy in this particular area. They are into preservation of environment, they are into wastewater treatment. And so they are taken up and they are also into sanitation planning for cities. And also on fecal sludge management. So they have taken up consultancy arrangement, taken up a contract for providing consultancy in this particular area for which they receive fees.
Right.
Under
the existing notification, the serial numbers of the notification, it is not covered. Whether it is a charitable activity, which I doubt. while I tend to believe that it should get covered, but the way you have explained looks like it's being given to a third party and for its fees. It's more of a commercial exploitation.
But it's under preservation of environment. Entirely is under the umbrella of preservation of environment.
True, but prima facie looks like it may not get covered under the exemption. But we'll have to deep dive to see whether you can get covered under any of the exemption. But given that it's a commercial exploitation, to my mind, it would not enjoy the exemption.
Then this particular activity falls under preservation of environment.
True, the activity of consulting, see, under the large umbrella of environmental protection or whatever, but the activity is of consulting, which is for commercial exploitation, which may not typically get covered for any exemption as such. That's what I am saying, and that's probably my prima facie view. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Do you have any more questions?
So the charitable trust, it supplies both exempt and taxable goods. So for exempt goods, as it is a tax invoice or a bill of supply?
No, so for exempt supplies, then bill of supply is sufficient. Only the moment you have a taxable supply, then tax invoice comes.
So wherever the 0% GST is there, you can give bill of supply.
Bill of supply.
Earlier for TDS, for direct tax, income tax, for doing TDS on sale of property, one had to register themselves as a TDS TAN. They had to take a TAN number. Now they have changed it to allow a person with PAN number only can pay the tax. Maybe similar thing will have to be brought here, where reverse tax has to be paid. They should be allowed to pay without having to go through the registration process, or because the services of lawyer and all may be used once or twice a year. So maybe they have to pay tax, but for that they don't have to go through the process of registration, filing nil letter every month. All that could be avoided.
Friends, we had an interactive session post lunch. It was lively. I hope you enjoyed the session and enriched yourself on the topic GST relating to charitable institutions. So please thank the speaker in the round of applause. It's time to present a memento to a speaker. May I request our CA Nanjunda to come forward and do the honor of presenting a memento as a token of appreciation and gratitude. Please stand, speak in the round of applause. Friends, we'll break for tea and reassemble as soon as possible for our last session on CSR.